Darkness surged. At the bottom of this lightless dragon transformation pool, even the concept of time seemed to silently disappear. In a shadowed corner, a figure lay enveloped in thick, black, viscous water. This water clung like mud, wrapping tightly around him, barely hinting at a human form through its indistinct outline. Around him, vast currents of dark energy continuously poured in. Yet, despite this flow, the figure sealed within the mud remained still. Amid the silence, it was hard to tell how much time had passed until suddenly, the mud shivered. A pair of glowing black eyes emerged from within. Sigh. As Lin Dong opened his eyes, a soft sigh escaped him. He had been in this dragon transformation pool for over half a month. Despite successfully remolding his bones into superior dragon bones, no matter how much energy he absorbed from the pool, the bones within his body remained at this level, far from becoming the so-called ancient dragon bones. No wonder those ancient dragon bones are so rare among the dragon tribe, Lin Dong thought wryly, understanding for the first time the difficulty of achieving such a transformation. Only figures like Senior Qingji could possibly own them. I suspect the ancient dragon bones aren't obtained solely by absorbing the pool's energy, mused Yan's voice, breaking Lin Dong's train of thought. During this time, Yan had been closely observing the changes within Lin Dong. Despite Lin Dong using the Devouring Ancestral Talisman's power to greedily absorb the pool's energy, the only result was that his steel-like black bones deepened in color, without further qualitative changes. Clearly, it wasn't due to insufficient energy. What have you discovered? Lin Dong asked, regaining his composure and querying Yan, who had way more experience. According to the dragon tribe, even those who acquire the ancient dragon bones don't know exactly what happened at that moment. Frankly, I'm not too familiar with the dragon tribe's bones either, Yin stated evenly before pausing. But my former master once saw this ancient dragon transformation pool and remarked that true strength isn't merely physical. Not just physical strength? Lin Dong furrowed his brow, pondering. The symbol ancestor's words weren't obscure. Humans could cultivate not just their physical body, but also their spirit. So, to obtain the ancient dragon bones, both physical strength and spirit might need to reach a certain level? I'm not sure, Yin confessed after hesitating. Lin Dong nodded, remaining silent for a while before making a decision. Steeling himself, he channeled a wisp of spiritual energy from his Niwen palace. At once, the surrounding black pool water reacted, clinging onto the spiritual energy with wisps of dark energy. An ear-piercing sound filled the air. Pain. The sharp pain that shot through Lin Dong's mind as the sound reverberated was even clearer than when his bones had shattered. His eyes instantly filled with bloodshot threads. Clenching his fists tight, Lin Dong's fingernails dug into his palms. Gritting his teeth, he took a deep breath, his eyes flashing with determination. Boom. With that, Lin Dong unleashed a torrent of spiritual energy from his Niwen palace, like a tidal wave crashing outwards. As the powerful spiritual energy surged out, the surrounding waters bubbled furiously, like boiling liquid. They clung to the advancing spiritual energy, sharp as blades, relentlessly cutting at Lin Dong's burgeoning energy. The intense agony overwhelmed Lin Dong, making veins pop on his face as the unbearable pain surged through him. His mind reeled from the dizzying waves of pain that piled up, and he felt his consciousness waver. The pain from this spiritual exertion was more intense than his previous bone-shattering experience. No wonder those dragon tribe members who ventured here clung desperately to their physical form, unwilling to let their spiritual energy leak out. Yin. With his awareness fading, Lin Dong called out urgently in his mind. But this time, Yan's voice didn't answer, as if it too had been isolated. A wave of silent curses flashed through Lin Dong's mind, but as his consciousness completely faded, he felt himself lose control over his own body. So, is this the end? In the midst of his fading awareness, Lin Dong's murmur echoed from the depths of his mind. His consciousness finally fell into darkness. In the darkness, Lin Dong seemed vaguely aware that his consciousness was sinking alongside the rise and fall of the pool's waters, sinking deeper and deeper. With no concept of time here, Lin Dong, adrift in the blur of his consciousness, had no idea how long he lingered in this darkness. All he could do was cling desperately to the last glimmer of clarity amidst this shadowy ebb and flow. Though that clarity was akin to a lone boat in a storm, Lin Dong knew that losing it would mean never resurfacing. Yet, in this endless downward spiral into darkness, maintaining that clarity proved difficult. Even with Lin Dong's tenacious will, as if years were passing by, that clarity was slowly dissipating. Is it really going to end here? A whispering voice emerged from deep within Lin Dong's consciousness. That last shred of clarity flickered like a candle's dying flame. However, just as his clarity was about to vanish, a light seemed to appear before him. It was a slender girl, with long ice-blue hair and eyes as cold as glaciers. Yet at this moment, those eyes were filled with anxiety. Immediately, a distant voice, ethereal and faint, echoed forth. "You promised me you wouldn't die." The girl's flawless beauty had shed its youthful naivety, revealing a breathtaking allure, none other than Huan. "You promised me you wouldn't die. You wouldn't die." The girl's urgent voice pierced through time and space, reaching Lin Dong's blurred consciousness. It was like a stone dropping into still waters, creating ripples. Huan. The fading clarity suddenly reignited, shattering the engulfing darkness like fragile crystal. Lin Dong's eyes snapped open, and control over his body returned. Just as he was about to flee, his gaze locked onto the surroundings, freezing him in shock. "Where is this place?" he muttered to himself, eyes wide in astonishment. He found himself in a massive hall, where figures sat cross-legged. Their flesh had long decayed into nothing, leaving only black skeletal remains sitting like immovable rocks, emanating a vast, steady power. This place felt like a burial ground. Meanwhile, in a secluded, icy mountain within the distant eastern mystery region, at the Dao sect, at the familiar ice lake, a girl sat on an ice lotus. Her closed eyes suddenly opened, and the expressionless, icy face showed a trace of worry. Her delicate hand gently pressed against her chest, where she felt a faint, sharp pain. Though she didn't fully understand what had just occurred, she clearly knew she had seen that familiar figure. He was evidently facing a life-and-death situation. "You promised me you wouldn't die." The girl's delicate hand slowly clenched as she whispered to herself. Suddenly, the sound of the wind breaking came from afar, and a figure landed by the ice lake. EngSubs looked at the dazed face of the girl on the ice lotus and hurriedly approached, asking, Huan, what's wrong?" "Sister, I just saw him." Huan's icy eyes fixed on EngSubs. EngSubs was taken aback and asked in surprise, "He's back? I saw him here." Huan shook her head, pointing to her heart. EngSubs smiled wryly, dismissing it as Huan missing someone dearly, offering comfort. Then she sighed, her expression turning grave, as she said, "Recently, we've received some news. The Yuan sect seems to be making unusual moves." Huan's eyebrows furrowed slightly, and EngSubs could clearly sense that, upon hearing the Yuan sect's name, the surrounding cold intensified. "Father says it's possible the Yuan sect intends to declare war." EngSubs' delicate hand clenched tightly. A war. Upon hearing this shocking news, Huan's beautiful face showed no ripple of emotion. Instead, the corners of her mouth curved into a smile as cold as a blade's edge. Huan took a deep breath of the chilly air, her eyes conveying a determined resolve. She suddenly stood up and walked straight towards the exit of the ice lake. "Sister, I need to leave the Dao sect for a while." EngSubs watched her back, quickly asking, "Why?" Huan paused, white frost emanating from her body, encapsulating her in ice. In the next moment, the ice sculpture shattered, and her figure mysteriously vanished from the world, to reclaim what is rightfully mine. Her calm voice lingered over the ice lake as her figure disappeared mysteriously. In the ancient hall, silent and covered in the dust of ages, Lin Dong stared blankly at the blackened skeletons before him, feeling slightly absent-minded. He hadn't expected such an unusual place to be hidden within the dragon transformation pool. It seems this is the true key to obtaining the ancient dragon bones. Yan's surprised voice echoed. Lin Dong nodded in agreement. This burial ground was hidden within the dragon transformation pool, accessible only through spiritual energy exploration. Yet, unleashing spiritual energy in such a place was both foolish and dangerous. Even with Lin Dong's resolute mind, he nearly fell into that dark abyss, becoming part of the dragon transformation pool's energy. Only those with extraordinary courage and resistance to the dark descent could reach this place and obtain the ancient dragon bones. Just now, Lin Dong's gaze flickered slightly. Yes, it was your little girlfriend, Huan, who helped you, Yan replied. Lin Dong was momentarily dazed. How could Huan sense his situation from the distant eastern mystery region and manifest to assist him? When the heart knows, it naturally feels. Yan's voice carried a subtle meaning. However, let me remind you, if she can do such things, then it seems her reincarnation spirit has begun to awaken and merge with her. Otherwise, she wouldn't have such abilities. Lin Dong clenched his fist. In the darkness, he vaguely saw the young girl with ice-blue long hair, the same as when he first saw Huan awaken her reincarnation spirit. Gone was the charming youthfulness, replaced by an unfamiliar icy coldness. Let's solve the problem at hand. Lin Dong took a deep breath, suppressing his slightly turbulent thoughts. He looked at the burial hall ahead, determination flashing in his black eyes. He needed to become truly strong, and acquiring the ancient dragon bones was imperative. He stepped forward, his footsteps echoing softly in the quiet hall. Inside the hall, black skeletons sat in silence. There was no trace of vitality, yet an astonishing power still surged within them. After thousands of years, these skeletons were still formidable. These skeletons are all high-grade dragon bones. Lin Dong instantly recognized the similarity in hue between these bones and those within him. Clearly, these bones were of the highest caliber. As Lin Dong ventured deeper, the color of the skeletal remains grew more profound. This realization made his heart race. He fixed his fiery gaze on the deepest part, hastening his steps, striding across the hall until he stopped abruptly, his breathing heavy. Lin Dong paused, shaken by the sight before him. There were 8 copper platforms, each with a skeleton seated upon it. Unlike the others, these 8 skeletons were not black, but a dark golden color. The dark gold light radiated from the 8 skeletons, an eternal glow that even time couldn't erase. An indescribable majesty quietly pervaded, enveloping the entire burial hall. This is... Lin Dong was at a loss for words, staring at the dark golden skeletons. Their power clearly far surpassed that of the earlier high-grade bones. Obviously, these 8 bones were the legendary ancient dragon bones. Moreover, beside these 8 bronze platforms were 4 more, each with a darker skeleton seated upon them. The power within these, however, was far less than in the 8 ancient dragon bones. Yet, their placement in this significant spot was puzzling. The power within these 4 ancient dragon bones has been absorbed by someone before. Yan's keen insight was clear. It seems to be so. Even though these ancient dragon bones have had their power absorbed, they don't disintegrate into dust. They continue to silently absorb the energy of the dragon transformation pool. Perhaps one day, they'll revert back to ancient dragon bones, Yan said. I see. Lin Dong realized. Over time, wouldn't that mean more ancient dragon bones would accumulate here? Reflecting on this, Lin Dong couldn't help but chuckle at himself. Judging by the 4 skeletal remains nearby, even if they had reached the level of ancient dragon bones, to regain that state again would definitely require ages. There are actually 12 ancient dragon bones here now. It seems that over countless years, the Dragon Clan has produced some remarkable individuals, Lin Dong noted with a hint of surprise. Usually, Dragon Clan experts possessing ancient dragon bones could attain the reincarnation realm. Thus, these 8 ancient dragon bones before him represented 8 reincarnation realm experts, a truly astonishing lineup. Given that the Dragon Clan has been a heritage since ancient times, it's not surprising they have such depths, Yin remarked, unfazed. He paused before getting to the main point. However, just locating the ancient dragon bones doesn't guarantee success. Inside these bones lies not only immense power, but also the will of their former lives. A careless attempt to absorb this power could not only fail to strengthen your dragon bones, but might even destroy your consciousness. Lindong wasn't particularly surprised. If ancient dragon bones were easy to obtain, they wouldn't be so rare. Since I've made it this far, even if it's a mountain of blades or a sea of fire, I'll take the plunge. Lindong grinned and stepped forward, standing before a dark golden skeleton. His eyes burned as he examined it. The dark golden skeleton sat in a meditation pose, with golden light cascading over its surface like an indestructible diamond body. The skeleton's posture was slightly bent, its head bowed, exuding a sense of reverence. Reverence? Lindong narrowed his eyes, turning to look at the myriad of black-boned skeletons in the burial hall. These skeletons sat quietly, mirroring the dark golden skeleton perfectly, except their reverence was directed at the 8 dark golden skeletons on the copper platform. Yet now, even this dark golden skeleton showed signs of worship. Lindong shifted his gaze to the other 7 dark golden skeletons, noting that they also shared this stance. This scene made his gaze waver. After a moment, he stepped back and turned sharply, looking towards where the 8 dark golden skeletons were facing. There stood a massive pillar with a peculiar, neither metallic nor wooden, material. It was covered with intricate engravings of soaring dragons. Such pillars were not rare in the hall. Lindong had seen many along the way, but this one gave him a sense of foreboding. Lindong, look at the top of the pillar. Yan's voice, filled with surprise, suddenly sounded. Whoosh! Lindong quickly looked up, his sharp eyes focusing on the column's peak. At the very top, there seemed to be the faint outline of a figure. What is that? Lindong's pupils contracted as he launched himself upwards. In mere breaths, he reached the pillar's summit. As Lindong landed on the column's top, he instantly felt his body sink, his knees nearly buckling. It was only by quickly steadying himself that he avoided collapsing. Despite this, the incident left Lindong shocked. The familiar dragon clan pressure he felt was overwhelmingly powerful, beyond anyone he had encountered, even surpassing the revered senior Qingji. With this realization in mind, Lindong slowly lifted his head. Not far ahead, there was a stone platform shaped like a lotus. Sitting upon it was a shadowy figure. The figure appeared incredibly thin, without the overpowering dark golden glow. This skeleton looked like flawless jade, crystal clear. Upon closer inspection, he could see fine jade-like veins within the bones. This jade skeleton could only be described as perfect. As Lindong gazed at it, his eyes grew unfocused. Quickly regaining his composure, he asked with a trembling heart, "Whose remains are these?" At this moment, Lindong's heart surged with tumultuous waves. According to what Yuan Qian said, the strongest dragon bones among the dragon clan should be the ancient dragon bones. However, the flawless jade-like skeleton before him clearly surpassed the 8 dark golden ancient dragon bones below. With astonishment in his heart, Lindong shifted his gaze downward and discovered that the 2 hands of the jade skeleton bore 6 crystal-clear bone fingers. This is... Yan's voice suddenly rang out with surprise. The 6-fingered sacred dragon emperor? 6-fingered sacred dragon emperor? Lindong was taken aback, finding the name incredibly imposing. He cautiously asked, "Who is he?" "Someone who once unified the demonic beast realm." Lindong's pupils instantly contracted. Unified the demonic beast realm? He stared in a daze at the jade-like skeleton before him, unable to stop the tremendous shock rising within, as he understood well the terrifying achievement those simple words represented. The ancient demonic beast realm was evidently more chaotic than it is now, with rival warlords dividing the land, and various major races standing tall. Among them were several dominant clans, whose foundations were in no way weaker than those of the Dragon Clan. So, for the Dragon Clan to compete with them was one thing, but to say one could unify the entire demonic beast realm and make these proud dominant clans bow in submission was absolutely an unimaginable feat. Yet, now Yin claimed that this jade skeletal structure, in its living form, had unified the demonic beast realm. How terrifying must such power have been? It indeed was an overwhelming power. In those ancient times, the strength of the six-fingered sacred dragon emperor could only be securely surpassed by the Ice Lord and the Devouring Lord out of the 8 ancient lords. The other 6 were on par with him, Yin remarked in awe. Lin Dong's mouth twisted into a grin. The 8 ancient lords symbolized the pinnacle of combat strength in ancient times, and for this six-fingered sacred dragon emperor to contend with them, surely his power was extraordinary. In the ancient era, mighty beings were numerous. Though the 8 ancient lords were incredibly powerful, there were a few top warriors capable of challenging them, Yin said with a smile. Lin Dong nodded, understanding that the 8 ancient lords were merely representatives of the ancestral talisman lineage. Although no one could reach the level of the ancestral talisman, others might briefly rival the 8 ancient lords with distinct abilities. However, strength is highly revered in the demonic beast realm. Although the six-fingered sacred dragon emperor achieved unification under his formidable might and external forces from the Great World War, his fall led to the dragon clan losing the power to keep the dominant clan submissive, leading to division once more. Lin Dong nodded again, aware of the warmongering and wild nature within the demonic beast's very blood, making submission to anyone outside their lineage a difficult proposition. To think this skeleton was so formidable in life, no wonder it exudes such power. Lin Dong rubbed his chin, gazing at the jade skeleton before him. In his black eyes, a burning desire slowly condensed, and he smiled. It seems this dragon bone might be stronger than the ancient dragon bones below. How about, I choose it? Choose it? Yan's voice suddenly took on an odd tone. Do you think no one among the dragon experts over the millennia that's found their way here noticed this jade dragon bone? Yet, no one could succeed. What does that tell you? Obviously, this jade dragon bone is not something ordinary beings can bear. Besides, I am sure you can sense the terrifying power housed within this jade skeleton. Lin Dong pursed his lips and nodded. From the first glance, he sensed a frightening power within the jade skeleton. Just feeling it made his body tremble. The combined might of the 8 ancient dragon bones below probably couldn't rival this jade skeleton. So he knew well that if he attempted to absorb this jade skeleton, he faced significant risk of being overwhelmed directly. Moreover, within this skeleton must linger the will of the six-fingered sacred dragon emperor. Such a formidable entity's will wouldn't easily be overcome, even after the passage of ages. The potential danger was akin to a life and death gamble. I know it's hazardous. It might demand an enormous price. But I need it. Lin Dong's gaze lowered slightly, his mind once again flashing back to the young girl he had glimpsed in that darkness. Though there was no direct interaction, he felt she was undergoing changes that might intensify in the future. He had an indistinct feeling that perhaps, when Huan's power reached its absolute peak, she might truly transform into that unfamiliar entity known as the Ice Lord. Therefore, he needed to enhance his strength as much as possible. Sigh, what a crazy guy, Yin remarked helplessly. He hadn't expected that Huan, being the reincarnation of the Ice Lord, would ignite such a strong desire for progress in Lin Dong. Perhaps, in a way, this was not entirely a bad thing. If you're truly determined to try, then go ahead. I'll do my best to protect you. But if it becomes impossible, you'll have to give up, Yin mused after a moment. Thank you. Lin Dong nodded with gratitude, took a deep breath, and stepped forward. He halted before the lotus stone pedestal and slowly, yet firmly, extended his hand to gently touch the crystalline jade skeleton. Boom. The moment his fingers made contact with the jade skeleton, an indescribable, terrifying pressure erupted from it. Lin Dong's body instantly sank. Cracks spread across the ground beneath his feet. Gritting his teeth, Lin Dong felt the overwhelming pressure surrounding him. Even the bones within his body creaked under the strain. He realized that if his bones hadn't previously transformed into superior dragon bones, this pressure alone might have shattered them. The pressure surged outward, eventually engulfing the entire bone burial hall, seemingly pressing the numerous skeletons deeper into the ground. Buzz. As Lin Dong steadfastly resisted the enveloping pressure, Light suddenly gathered within the sunken eye sockets of the jade skeleton. The beams shot into Lin Dong's dark eyes, causing his mind to reel as though torn through time and space. The dizziness soon dissipated, and as Lin Dong regained his composure, he saw the scene around him transform into an endless, primeval land with an ancient aura permeating the air. How interesting. I never thought a human could enter the secret realm of our dragon clan. A faint voice echoed through this vast land as Lin Dong took in the unfamiliar surroundings. It was a voice filled with indescribable authority that dimmed even heaven and earth. With a shiver, Lin Dong looked up and saw a lotus stone pedestal high in the sky. Beneath it sat a man in a purple robe, composed and cross-legged. The man was strikingly handsome, but his gaze was filled with an intimidating dignity. From beneath his sleeves, a hand with 6 perfect fingers extended. 6-fingered sacred dragon emperor. Lin Dong's scalp tingled. The figure must be the legendary overlord who had once united the demon beast realm. Although only a remnant will remain, it was still extremely daunting. The current dragon clan has grown quite lax in guarding the secret realm. The man in purple observed Lin Dong with a voice that sent shivers down his spine. Senior, the dragon transformation pool is still restricted to the dragon clan. I was only allowed in because I helped them, Lin Dong explained hurriedly. The dragon clan requires your assistance now. The man in purple quirked an eyebrow. Lin Dong gave a wry smile, understanding that his apparent strength did not impress this formidable figure. He quickly recounted the matter of the demon-suppressing prison. They even placed the demon-suppressing prison beneath the dragon domain. The man in purple paused before looking at Lin Dong again, his gaze slightly softer. You carry many familiar scents on you? Lin Dong chuckled awkwardly, knowing the 6-fingered sacred dragon emperor could discern much within him at a glance. Little one, reaching this point shows you have some skills. However, helping the dragon clan doesn't mean you can easily claim our primordial dragon bones. That would be naive, the man in purple said with a smile. I only wish to try my best, Lin Dong replied, aware that this formidable figure would not simply grant him anything on account of past favors. Before you, 18 others have come here. They were the best of the dragon clan, but all failed, the man in purple noted, casting his gaze on Lin Dong. Do you think you can succeed? Though it's difficult, having no courage to try might earn me a slap from you, senior, Lin Dong smiled. The man in purple was momentarily taken aback before he chuckled. What an interesting young man. What should I do? Lin Dong asked eagerly. The man in the purple robe smiled. His 6-fingered hand slowly stretched out, and simultaneously, an overwhelming and terrifying aura spread out, blocking out the sun. It was as if a colossal purple-gold dragon coiled endlessly behind him. Then, a smile that could freeze Lin Dong's expression slowly emerged. Defeat me. Outside the dragon transformation pool, on a mountain peak, Yuan Qian sat quietly. Around him, several elders from the dragon clan were meditating with closed eyes. Buzz. In the silence, the ground suddenly trembled. Below, the black waters of the dragon transformation pool began to churn. Purple-gold light flickered within the dark waters, and from the depths came an indescribable ancient dragon's roar, shaking the heavens and the earth. Shoo! Yuan Qian and the others opened their eyes wide, staring at the disturbance within the pool. Their usually calm faces couldn't hide their shock. Is someone challenging the ancestor? Outside the dragon transformation pool, a commotion arose. On the surrounding mountain peaks, numerous eyes watched the turbulent waters with astonishment. Everyone in the dragon clan understood the terrifying extent of the energy within the pool. The waters were usually so dense that not even a mountain could cause a ripple. Yet now, it was a tumultuous sea. What on earth is happening? The younger generation of the dragon clan exchanged puzzled glances. They were unaware of the burial ground within the pool or the legacy of the 6-fingered sacred dragon emperor. Yet, even a brief mention in ancient texts stirred their spirits. After all, throughout the ages in the demonic beast realm, it was that emperor alone who could unite the powerful clans. Around Yuan Qian, the old elders no longer maintained their previous composure. Their faces were etched with shock. As elders, they knew a little about the burial ground, a place accessible only to those with great fortune. This surge is the ancestors, Yuan Qian said gravely, looking at the elders. Someone has entered the burial hall and connected with the ancestors' will. Who is it? An elder asked urgently. Not everyone entering the dragon transformation pool could enter the hall. Only those with tremendous fortune and resolve could succeed. If they acquired the ancient dragon bones, it would be a monumental event for the dragon clan. We're not sure yet. Yuan Qian shook his head, his eyes fixed on the tumultuous pool. An image of Lin Dong flashed through his mind briefly, and he shook his head lightly. Could it really be him? If it's Lin Dong and he obtains the ancient dragon bones. An elder murmured. For the dragon clan, the bones were a treasure, offering incredible potential to the one who possesses them. Yet, the troubling part was, Lin Dong wasn't part of their clan and had no dragon bloodline. Let's wait and see, Yuan Qian advised, suppressing the unease among the dragon elders, and sighed inwardly. As time passed, the disturbances in the dragon transformation pool grew more intense. About half an hour later, two vortices formed within the pool, sending two figures shooting out under countless watchful eyes. SHWH. All eyes turned skyward to these two, followed by exclamations. It's Yin Feng and Yuan Xian. They succeeded. Judging by the energy, it looks like superior grade dragon bones. Impressive indeed. In the air, as the light dispersed, Yin Feng and Yuan Xian appeared. Their postures seemed taller, their eyes sharp with energy, and beneath their skin, a black aura flowed. Superior grade dragon bones, one elder recognized instantly, exchanging wry smiles with his peers. Normally, having two young clan members retrieve superior dragon bones would be cause for celebration. But now, they couldn't feel happy. Because with Yuan Xian and Yin Feng having emerged, it meant Lin Dong was the only one left in the dragon transformation pool. Sigh, the same thing happened with Qingji back then, but regardless, he at least carried the dragon clan bloodline. This time, someone even more straightforward has come. An elder from the dragon clan remarked helplessly. Other elders wore peculiar expressions. If Lin Dong truly possessed even a hint of dragon clan blood, they might be thrilled. But alas, he was genuinely human, someone completely unrelated to their clan. Chief. The elders looked towards Yuan Qian, clearly troubled by this matter. Let's see how things unfold first. Although Lin Dong has entered the bone burial hall, it doesn't mean he can obtain the ancient dragon bones. Even if he does, perhaps it's time for our dragon clan to change some outdated customs. Yuan Qian placed his hands behind his back, gazing fixedly at the dragon transformation pool as he muttered, Lin Dong. If you truly have that ability, our dragon clan might just make an exception for you. Boom. On the ancient and wild lands, a magnificent pressure suddenly permeated, as a purple-golden dragon claw seemed to tear through space, smashing fiercely onto an impressive figure in the sky with incredible speed. With a low rumble, the figure was sent hurtling down, crashing like a cannonball into the ground and creating a massive, 1,000-foot-wide crater. Cough. Within the crater, a battered figure coughed intensely, blood covering his body. The once dazzling azure light had dimmed considerably. This figure was Lin Dong, who had challenged the six-fingered sacred dragon emperor. However, against such a formidable entity of the past, his challenge felt as hopeless as a gnat trying to shake a tree. Such an entity, once capable of contending with the 8 ancient lords, remained incredibly powerful despite his consciousness being a mere remnant. Your strength doesn't quite match your courage, the six-fingered sacred dragon emperor remarked calmly, sitting cross-legged on a lotus stone platform above. You won't earn my acknowledgement like this. Just give up. In the crater, Lin Dong wiped the blood from his mouth, lifting his head, his dark eyes burning with fighting spirit fixed upon the sacred dragon emperor. He didn't argue, but instead stepped forward decisively. Bursting azure light wrapped around him, gradually transforming into a massive azure dragon. The azure dragon coiled and hovered. Its dragon eyes gleamed with intense battle intent, its azure scales cold and robust like forged steel. Swoosh! In the next moment, The azure dragon shot forward as a streak of azure light, carrying fearsome power as it charged towards the sacred dragon emperor. In its wake, it seemed to leave a trail of azure brilliance, marking its passage even through the void. Oh, that energy feels familiar, as though someone trained in this martial art came here before. The sacred dragon emperor observed with a faint smile, shaking his head. But it's still not enough. As he spoke, he extended his slender, jade-like hand, gently waving it down. Instantly, the hand expanded to an immense size, obscuring the sky, and smashed against the advancing azure dragon. Boom! Blood sprayed as azure scales shattered. The dragon roared in agony, its supposedly formidable charge proving unable to budge the giant hand, instead being forcefully pressed down, creating a vast trench on the ground below. The azure light faded, and the dragon reverted back to Lin Dong's human form, his face pale, blood seeping continuously from his pores, painting a tragic picture. In the past, someone else also mastered this martial art. His proficiency should have surpassed yours, yet he failed too. Perhaps you're related to him? The sacred dragon emperor inquired with a faint smile. Lin Dong smiled bitterly. Had Senior Qingji been here too? Even with his formidable power, he ultimately failed. Was he destined never to obtain the powerful primordial dragon bones? It was frustratingly disheartening. Not entirely hopeless, came Yan's voice, calm and detached. You have a solution? Lin Dong asked, licking the blood from his lips. The six-fingered sacred dragon emperor you see is merely a will. To defeat him, you must overcome this will, but you're not his match in a contest of wills right now. So, you need assistance. Assistance? You? Lin Dong was taken aback. I can't handle him either right now. Yen said lazily, you possess the devouring ancestral talisman. Because of the devouring lord's fall, there's likely some remnant of his will within it. If you can connect with that residual will, you might summon the devouring lord. Lin Dong, upon hearing this, fell silent momentarily. He sat down cross-legged, his eyes slowly closing as all fluctuations around him gradually dissipated into nothingness. In the sky, the six-fingered sacred dragon emperor raised an eyebrow with interest at this sight, watching intently. He was curious to see what this young man could do next. The wilderness fell into an unusual quiet because of this. This silence persisted for a full 3 days. During this period, the six-fingered sacred dragon emperor made no move to interfere, gazing down without batting an eye at the slender figure below. As a former ruler of the demonic beasts, even a remnant of his will still carried an air of arrogance. However, it was clear the six-fingered sacred dragon emperor didn't intend for this idle time to continue indefinitely. When the third day arrived, he finally shifted his gaze and spoke, his voice echoing through the world. Little one, your time is almost up. If you want to choose a dragon bone, perhaps try something else. As his voice faded, he waved his sleeve, sending a pillar of purple gold light whistling down toward Lin Dong. Buzz. Just as the purple gold light was about to reach Lin Dong, the space in front of him suddenly cracked open like a gaping dark maw. It extended, devouring the pillar of light in an instant. This unexpected turn left the six-fingered sacred dragon emperor momentarily stunned. His eyes fixed tightly on the space behind Lin Dong, where space was slowly twisting. At the end of this distortion, a figure seemed to stride forth, breaking through time and space. Heh, six-fingered dragon, even in death, you still bully the young? Don't you feel embarrassed? Along with the emerging figure came a clear, jovial laugh that filled the heavens and earth. As this voice rang out, the typically composed six-fingered sacred dragon emperor's pupils abruptly constricted, and his deep voice, tinged with a mix of surprise and doubt, resonated in response.